Alrighty, you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Matt from Train Sim Society, and Dovetail has given us our long-awaited response on West Coast Mainline South. So they mentioned that they're listening to us and plan to get back with us earlier this week in regards to concerns following the West Coast Mainline preview. I'm talking about the build quality, also the timetable, the lighting was atrocious. Well, I'm hoping that all of these and more were addressed. We have a bunch of new statements. We also have something in from Discord too, which was posted on the forums. I'm going to be talking about that. So without further ado, let's just get into the update provided by Alex over on the forums. Hello everyone, we wanted to provide an update for the West Coast Mainline route for the launch of TSW5 coming next week with early access beginning this Thursday. And tomorrow's the preview stream for Kinzigtalbahn, so hopefully I'll see all of you there in the chat. Definitely looking forward to that route the most out of everything we've seen so far. We're committed to delivering the best experience for all of you that we can, helping develop this route in conjunction with multiple development partners, including those from our partner program and members of our community. We're actively working on a range of improvements that will be implemented post-launch that we wanted to share today. So already straight off the jump, just confirming that no, exactly what you saw in the preview stream is likely going to be the exact same for early access and even regular access release. So we aren't going to be expecting any improvements. I guess if so, they're probably really small things until after release, and who knows when that's gonna come. At least as of right now, there's no direct timeline on when we can expect that, but I'm thinking probably a couple of weeks to maybe a month, possibly even multiple months. I hope they wouldn't make us wait that long. Increase city skyline draw distance to be visible from further away. Okay, maybe that was a concern that was shared by others, but I definitely don't remember seeing that. But I mean, I guess that's a good thing. Improve passenger spread around Euston Station. Definitely a good one. It wasn't just Euston that looked pretty empty at times. Various lighting improvements, Euston Station light, baking, and performance. Thank you. Definitely much needed. Watford High Street lighting improvements, fixes for flashing when driving through tunnels. That was one of the biggest things for me. Again, it's great that there are fixes planned for this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it shouldn't take an army of people online on your forums for you to make these adjustments. The routes should be launching and releasing with these things already in mind. I mean, is there no quality standard anymore? Minor improvements to nighttime lighting for buildings. We've added more context later on for the Avanti West Coast Class 390 Pendolino, GSMR functionality, adjustments to front rear coupling alignment, and fixes to lighting intensity around luggage racks. So they're definitely listening to us. Of course, not everything that I was saying on the forums that some users were mentioning is on here, but a lot of the bigger stuff is, so it's good. But yet once again, we shouldn't be expecting post-release patches to bring a route up to the bare minimum. That should already be achieved for release, point blank period. So on to the next part. Finally, we've also committed to adding off-route locations as virtual destinations on PIS. However, we are not expecting this to be included within the first patch listed above, and it will follow in a future update afterwards. Okay, so that's probably not coming for quite a long time. If it's not coming in the first patch, honestly, I wouldn't expect that until like probably October or November, potentially even longer than that. So don't hold your breath on that one. Again, this was something else that should just be a standard feature in all routes at launch. As we've now finished work on the launch build for TSW5, the team are working on those improvements. They're in the current development cycle, which has started today, and once that is completed and tested, we'll be able to confirm a release date. So no release date, but we'll hear more, of course, when we do. I'll be sure to update you guys. So if you aren't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. So additional notes included with this initial patch will also be a range of other improvements for San Bernardino and Frankfurt Fulda, including some performance improvements for 8th gen console platforms. So for conductor mode, there are also a couple of known issues with conductor mode, which we will aim to improve with this patch that we wanted to acknowledge for launch. Yeah, I mean, we saw there were passengers getting stuck for the San Bernardino preview stream and also on West Coast Mainline South. After finishing a service and then trying to go into conductor mode without exiting to the main menu resulted in conductor mode not working at all. Yikes. They write, we are seeing some issues if you start conductor mode from in-world or change service mid-session, so we recommend that players start conductor mode from the menu. Oh boy, come on now. I mean, yeah, it's a workaround, but like, so what's the whole point of the route hopping feature? Okay, the whole point of the route hopping feature is to go from route to route where points connect without having to load out of your game and go back to the main menu and load back in. That's the whole point of route hopping. So clearly they want to make things more seamless for us so that we can play multiple sessions, but then they introduce a brand new conductor mode that doesn't work unless you go to the main menu. I know that conductor mode and route hopping are two separate features, but you would have thought that they would work pretty well together given their goal of trying to make things more seamless for us with the route hopping. So God, I really do hope they plan on fixing that. They have another bullet point here. Birmingham Cross City will feature conductor mode, and this has been implemented with launch. However, we are not fully confident with the delivery of this yet, and we do not recommend you play conductor mode on BCC for the time being, whilst we continue to implement and improve the experience. I'm kind of confused. You know, if they don't recommend playing it yet, why is it even there? I do think that they should have just waited to bring it until it was in a state that they feel confident in, but at least they do put that warning out, so I am very thankful for that. All right, so now on to the West Coast Mainline timetable, guys. Oh boy, this is gonna be the juicy part. One of the key areas of feedback we receive from you all relates to the timetable, and this is something we would like to improve the overall experience on the route in the longer term. We have prioritized the playable services available in the core route. However, at this time, making improvements to the volume of services in the timetable isn't something we can promise. So in the interest of transparency, please consider the current timetable as final. Yeah, okay, so, you know, just accept it now. This timetable is not going to change. I honestly feel like with the whole New York Trenton thing, the reason why it happened is because we were really loud over on the forums about that. I mean, that really pissed us off. More specifically, US players. And also, I remember making several videos about that. That was kind of when I started to become consistent on YouTube. And I know that those videos got a lot of traction, garnering thousands and thousands of views. So I'm sure that did play some sort of part in them deciding to move forward with this because, you know, YouTubers were covering it. It was getting thousands of views. The forum pages were going crazy. That thread was active for months and they did end up going back. Thank God the amazing Joe made a whole new timetable, pretty much giving us everything we didn't have. And now New York Trenton feels lively. It feels exactly how it should feel, especially if you're playing at like a busy time of day, like rush hour morning or rush hour night. There's literally always something coming in and out of New York Penn. We have Long Island Railroad stock there, New Jersey Transit, Amtrak. It is hustling and bustling, but you know, I do think that it's possible West Coast Mainline South could see that same treatment, but the only way it's going to happen is if you guys are loud. Make a lot of noise, keep talking about this, because if everyone just slowly quiets down, they have no reason to go and do it because it's not affecting them. You have to hit them where it hurts, which is their wallet. Don't buy the DLC and make a lot of noise over on the forums. So for launch, here is the full list of service counts. Class 350 EMU, 244 services, Class 377/236 services, Class 6638 services, Class 390 Pendolino 49, and Class 391 Pendolino 60, 1972 stock 198 services, Class 710 65 services, but requires the London Overground Suffragette line add-on. In reality, the Lioness line is every 15 minutes from Euston. That is not represented in this timetable at all. So for those of you that noticed that during the preview, unfortunately, nothing is changing between that and what is coming out, not just for early access, but for full release, and won't be changed in the future, at least right now. What an absolutely horrific excuse for a timetable. And it really sucks because most of the time they do timetables justice for UK content. I'd say they're pretty close to perfect. Not always perfect, obviously, but this is just not good, very lackluster. And you know what, I'm gonna say it, I really do hope this route is a commercial underperformance for them. Not just with the timetable, but they really need to sit down and figure out what they're going to do with future content, because releasing content this unfinished and this half-assed is just unacceptable. So keep in mind that this is for PC and Gen 9 consoles. For Xbox One and PS4, you've already guessed it, it's going to be amended, and it ain't any better. The timetable for 8th gen consoles will consist of Class 350 and Class 377 services with additional Avanti West Coast Class 390 Pendolinos, with the add-on, of course, if you do get the deluxe or special editions. Other trains included in this route, such as the Class 66 and London Underground stock, will only be available to operate by spawning them into the timetable. So they're cutting, I'm pretty sure this is saying, all the Class 66 freight stock and the London Underground stock. This route's gonna have nothing if you play on 8th gen consoles, and I know I shouldn't be laughing, but like, yikes. So additional mentions, we've previously announced that we are implementing updated suspension physics on the new Class 350 EMU. That's another thing, guys. This train isn't launching with suspension. You know, they said in TSW4, suspension, and we're like, oh, awesome, let's get our games. It'll come eventually, a whole year later, and they release suspension right on the doorstep of TSW5, and then say all trains going forward will have suspension. TSW5 comes, and now we have a brand new train, brand new logo for a brand new game that isn't going to have it at launch. The overpromising and under-delivering is just laughable at this point, but the good news is that with the suspension, it is going to be coming for the Class 350 at some point. No date for that at this time, and that also includes Class 377/2 and the 1972 tube stock, so they're also going to get the suspension. So, other areas of feedback that we wanted to acknowledge, the LNWR branding there, right? We understand some of you may be disappointed with the removal of the branding from the route and on the Class 350 EMU, and we can fully understand. We began development of the West Coast Mainline route and locos with the understand that we had permission to use the brand. Unfortunately, that permission was since withdrawn, and we were asked not to include any trademarks. Our teams are still managing ongoing conversations with LNWR, and we are hopeful of reintroducing the branding at some point in the future. We will let you know if this happens. On a separate note, we would ask that players let us engage with our licensed partners rather than engaging with them directly. Please see our message on LNWR branding. No, I definitely agree with that last part, and I've already talked about this in a video. Please do not reach out to these people on social media. These are just social media people. They probably, number one, don't have anything to do with the branding, and number two, you reaching out to them directly just makes Dovetail look bad, and it's gonna make it harder to get branding in the game in the future. So please don't do that. Let them handle that. But I will say that I do have doubts about the branding eventually making it in. I think they're just trying to say that to sugarcoat it and kind of let us down easy. So I'm not gonna have any hopes on that, though I would love to be proven wrong and see that added in at some point. So for track shadows, they write, during our preview, we've seen feedback that the track shadows weren't appearing to be functional on junctions. This is intentional, and due to the unique nature and design of every junction being a complete process to render reliably. Okay, you know, we need to sit here and talk about this for a second, because why are they completely dismissing all of the claims that were put in the live chat for the San Bernardino route add-on? I'm sure a lot of us knew about the junctions. We're not talking about the junctions. There were several times on the stream on completely straight pieces of track with no switches where it's just one track in the center of the highway with the, not to mention, floating cars going by on each side, where the track shadows were literally rendering in ahead of the train. In my review of the San Bernardino preview stream, I showed this and talked about it several times. So no, we're not talking about the junctions. I don't understand why they're deflecting in that way. Why do they still continue to ignore the smaller details of our criticisms? We know that, Dovetail. Now, can you give us a response for the actual straight pieces of track where the track shadows are actually rendering in and jumping in front of the train? Not the way that you promise it is in this new selling point for a new game? Explain that one. All right, neutral sections. Currently, this isn't something we're investigating adding at the moment to the route. There were people that were commenting on one of my older videos saying, like, I don't know what you're talking about. Neutral sections are automatic. flag, blah 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 blah. There are so many routes, German routes specifically, where the neutral sections do have an effect and you have to open and then close the main circuit breaker. So no, you're wrong. That is a part of gameplay on so many routes, and the fact that that was ignored here is unfortunate. Alright, so nighttime lighting. We've listed minor improvements to nighttime lighting in our first patch for West Coast Mainline above to improve the way buildings are lit. However, we wanted to clarify that from real world reference, that area is generally very dark and we're happy with the result we achieved. For example, here is some reference material taken from a beta tester who captured this footage via a drone on the Houston approach. Oh, so basically they're just doubling down on it. So I guess we're not going to expect any changes with nighttime lighting. There were definitely so many stations and so many light sources that felt like they didn't have lights or weren't bright enough for those that did. I definitely think they could improve that big time, but it doesn't seem like they have any plans to do so. Also, another thing that I'm going to be bringing up here is a post from DTG Alex in Discord. Now, there was a lot of speculation about Rivet having a helping hand on this route, and you know, in my honest opinion, I think it was pretty obvious. They don't have the greatest reputation for superb build quality. I personally think that anytime they put their hands on something, it turns out either being subpar or just really bad in some cases. Well, we have a post. We've worked with a handful of external partners. Rivet has been included in the development. Yeah, we know. We could tell. You don't even have to say it. We could really tell right away. I wanted to share that from a more personal note, less necessarily a Dovetail stance, but utilizing this information as a tool to hold against Rivet and take it out on their teams isn't what we want from this confirmation. I mean, are they basically just confirming here that their content is subpar or that they have a reputation for putting out subpar content? Because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I tell it how it is, and that's exactly what it's looking like to me. I can fully understand the disappointment that many of you see with this update and the wait for improvements. It's really tough and everyone involved wanted to deliver big, but between any development choices for good or bad are genuine people that will see these reactions and ultimately feel hurt. I mean, he's not wrong. These are actual people that are making these games, but it still doesn't take away from the truth and the fact that, no, I'm not coming for anyone individually and personally, but as a team, as a whole, they have a reputation for putting out subpar content. Go look at the work that's been released. You can't fault someone for saying that. If you agree with me, what's been happening? I guess that is subjective, but it's just honesty. He continues, as a collective voice, I think it's understandable to have concerns, to be upset, or to feel out of the reality of what has been delivered, but I do hope that as a community that wants only the best train simulation experience, please don't attack people who are constantly trying to deliver this, be it Rivet Games or Dovetail or any other partners. We've all made our share of blunders or had our chances in the sun. I know the West Coast Mainline was the chance to get this right for UK players, and this is why we're setting this improvement plan in place. So they're basically kind of confirming here that they're realizing it's not up to par and it doesn't meet the quality standards, but also, you know, putting out that message to be kind to these individuals. And I don't think people should be reaching out to the team itself and attacking them. If anything, we need to be posting our constructive feedback. Again, it has to be constructive. There is nothing wrong with holding a company or a team accountable, especially when they're collecting money from people like us, which are paying customers. He finishes off with, feel free to hold the opinions you may, but please choose wisely how you action those thoughts. And I think that this is actually a really good statement. So let me know below on your thoughts on, of course, this statement and the official post over on the forums for the future post-release patch and what they plan to fix. That's on the timetable, the scenery, just the general build quality of the route. I'm curious on what you guys think. That's gonna be it for me and conclude the video. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, found it entertaining, informative, helpful in any way, or just want to support the channel, give it a thumbs up. I know a large chunk of you watching are not subscribed, so make sure you subscribe. Click that notification bell so that you're notified for any new uploads, and I'll see you all next time. Take care and happy rail simming. Bye, guys.